What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls commentary. Alright guys, we're back at it in the Coliseum, and we're going to have a series of matchups. Now this is going to be a two-part series with regard to the Coliseums, and we're going to talk about a myriad of subjects. Now the first subject that I want to talk about are these ridiculous brackets. Now, I've had a number of conversations with guys because it seems as if a lot of people are stopping at level 100. Right now, although there may be a number of people who are still going to 120 and 125, a lot of people that I've had communications with are stopping at level 100, and I don't understand why. Well, actually, let me take that back. I do understand why, based upon what they are saying. And the argument that they have is, the brackets are under 50, 51 to 100, 101 through 200. And because of that, a lot of people do not want to get matched up against level 200s. Right? So their argument is, well, we'll just stay at level 100 so we can be at the top of the second tiered bracket. Right? Because we just do not want to get matched up against level, 150s, 175s, and 200s because we perceive that is not fair. Now, here's my argument to that. Number one, there's a such thing as diminished returns, right, with regard to the leveling up. Now, what exactly do I mean by diminished returns? If you notice, a lot of the attributes, right, the character attributes, the strength, the dexterity, faith, intelligence, and some of these others, you get some of the biggest increases between 30 and 40 soul levels. In most cases, anything after 40 is where you experience the diminished returns. Now, somebody may say, what exactly do you mean by diminished returns? What I mean is, it's kind of like a slope, you might say. So you get what I would call somewhat steep increases up to 40. And even though you will still get increases after soul level 40, they are not as steep, and it almost flatlines, right? Now, I'm not saying it does flatlines, but what I'm saying is the rate of increase is lowered greatly, right? So, in other words, whereas you'll see a large benefit between, soul level 1, and I'm not, well, actually not soul level, although you will see a lot of increases in the attribute between 0 and 40, you don't really see a big increase at 40 plus. So this is why, a 125 being matched up against a 175, in my personal opinion, doesn't really make a big difference. Now, where it might make a difference is to the extent that someone may, get 10 attunement slots, right? Or maybe if they get 99 vitality. But the family mask, according to what I've read and, according to what I've heard, have been nerfed. Right? So even if you have 99 vitality, you're going to be sacrificing things elsewhere. Right? I've even heard guys say, well, at level 200, you'll get somebody with 99 vitality and they'll be ninja flipping. Well, guess what, guys? A lot of us who are used to the consoles are still used to the ninja flippers, right? In other words, until the DLC is released, we've already been dealing with ninja flippers. So is it really a big deal? In my personal opinion, it's not. Okay. Another thing that I've heard somebody say is, well, we just basically, it's just basically the same argument all the time. But here's my second argument against what they're saying. What they're saying is, we just don't want to get matched up against higher levels because we believe it's unfair. However, if you're stopping at level 100, also realize that there are going to be some guys who are awaiting matches in the Coliseum who are not level 100. Because the brackets go from 51 to 100. So in other words, you'll be matched up in some cases, right, against level 51, level 60, level 65, level 70, right, which are at least 30 levels below you. Levels 80, which is 20 levels below you. Level 90, which is 10 levels below you. So the same thing that some people are arguing against are in effect already happening, right? Because there are some guys that are level 54 who, they say, okay, let me kind of get some Coliseum matches in. And just so happen they may be faced up against a level 100. Now, for the guys who will make the argument of, well, it's matchmaking, so, even though that is possible due to the brackets, they try to match you up with levels closest to yours. Well, guess what, dude? That's the same argument I would make for going to level 125 and being in the 101 to 200 bracket. In other words, if you are 125, right, and on the opposite platform, there is a 130, a 125, and then a 200. If your argument is, yes, it is true that you're within brackets, but you're still going to be matched up to a soul level closer than yours, well, you're almost still supporting what I'm saying. Because in other words, to the extent that there are other people on the opposite platform closer to your soul level range, then you should be more likely matched up with them than the one who is further from your soul level range. Now, why is this a big deal? Personally, it's not really a big deal. As a matter of fact, I think there are some benefits to stopping at 100. One of the benefits are, well, actually, I won't go through a list of benefits. I'll say one of the benefits that I like the most is the fact that stopping at level 100 really requires for you to pay close attention to how you create your build, right? Another thing I like about level 100 is basically you're almost going to be matched up skill for skill. And the reason why I say that is, at level 100, most people, in my personal opinion, are going to have somewhere between 40 and 50 vitality, right? To the extent that you have either 45 or 50, there's only going to be a difference of 100 in vitality. Now, somebody may say, well, what difference does that make? The difference that it makes, in my personal opinion, is that you are really assessing the degree to which a player is better than you or worse than you, right? Because you'll be more evenly matched with regard to vitality. And here's what I mean. I've explained in the past that I no longer use vitality builds, right? And the reason why I no longer use vitality builds is because anyone can outlast someone with regard to vitality, and that's not necessarily an indicator of someone so-called playing better than you. Case in point, there was this guy on a live stream at Twitch, and he was using a vitality build. He was a ninja flipping, Mask of the Mother wearing, elemental weapon wielding, full giant armored opponent. Right? And I had my Faith Mage, which only had 40 vitality, which, with a Ring of Protection and Favor, will only give me 1,590 vitality, right? So I had 1,590 vitality faced against an opponent that had around 2,500 vitality. But guess what? All but one time, right? Every match except for one, I beat him. Right? Which made me feel a lot better because my thing is, dude, I was able to drain 2,500 vitality and I only have 1,500. Now, with the level 100, you wouldn't have to worry about that, right? Now, this does not include the guys who are cheating, guys who are using, this trainer that they have, which I have mixed opinions about with regard to the trainer. And maybe I'll talk about that a little later. But you're more evenly matched with regard to vitality, so you don't have to worry about fighting someone with 99 vitality, although it's still not an issue, in my personal opinion. Because, to the extent that it is true that they nerfed the family masks, 99 vitality plus a mask of the mother is not going to get the person more than, 2,500 vitality. I don't think. Now, I haven't tested it. I don't know if they really nerfed the mask of the mother. But I do know that 99 vitality with the mask of the mother on the consoles would give you 2,500 vitality. So, to the extent that they did nerf it, right, you're not going to be faced against anyone with more than 2,500. That's the bottom line. So to the extent that you have elevated your vitality to, let's just say 50 with the Ring of Favor Protection, you would have 1,800, right? Which would bring you to a margin of, I don't know, probably 600 or 700 difference in vitality. Now, I've had some 125 builds with actually not 7, with 70 in vitality, right? Which gave me around, 2,000 to 2,100 vitality. And I wasn't with the Mask of the Mother. That was just 70 vitality with straight equipment, right? Because most of you guys know I absolutely hate family masks. I think they're ugly. I mean, that's really no reason other than that. I think they're ugly, therefore I don't like them. I like just regular equipment. So I really don't understand what the big deal is, although I do see the benefit of being more closely matched and therefore judging what some might consider to be PvP skill. I'm still not afraid of the 100 to 200 bracket. Well, actually the 101 to 200 bracket. Right, so hopefully some of you guys will make some 125 builds and we can still engage in PvP in the 125 level. But, to the extent that a lot of you guys are stopping at 100, I also have about 2 or 3 level 100 builds. Alright, now, let's talk about these dark magics. Right, because I've read a lot of comments, I've heard a lot of guys say that these dark magics are overpowered. Guess what, guys? They are not overpowered. And here's why I'll say that. Now, when Dark Souls was first released, a lot of people feared the Wrath of the Gods. Right? A lot of people said, oh my God, they need to nerf Wrath of the Gods, it's overpowered, is this or is that. Mainly because it was something that we were not used to. Right? And because it was new and seemed to be overpowered, a lot of people feared it. But as time went on, many of us realized, hold on, dude, you can just jump through it. Right? Now, you may get caught every now and then, but you really don't have to fear Wrath of the Gods because you can jump through it. In other words, many of us found ways to deal with Wrath of the Gods. So whereas when the game was first released, it was intimidating to many, as time went on, we realized that it was really nothing to fear. And this is the same thing that I'll say with regard to, the so-called dark magics. Right? It's really nothing to fear, guys. Even, what do they call that? Even pursuers. A lot of people will say, oh my God, pursuers need to be nerfed. Guess what? I do not think it needs to be nerfed. I think you guys need to not panic when you see someone cast it. Right? Don't panic and just run away from it. Or you can use the crest shield. Right? Because, and actually I've heard some guys make the argument of, well, dark magics are physical. So therefore the crest shield, does nothing against it. Guess what, guys? It may inflict physical damage, but you need a catalyst to cast it. Right? And since you need a catalyst to cast it, the crest shield works. And actually I've tested it. Also, don't forget about Great Magic Barrier, right? Which nullifies 90% of magic attacks. Guess what, guys? Great Magic Barrier also works against the so-called dark magics. Guess what else works? The Vow of Silence also works if you guys are fighting against a mage. So you don't have to worry about it, right? It's not overpowered. We don't need it to be nerfed. It adds variety to the mage class. Variety that many of us were arguing for in the past. Right? To the extent that you guys are familiar, I created a video basically talking about the mage class was, weak, basically. And it was not a force to be reckoned with. I think these new sorceries add variety and make PvP as a mage a little more viable. Right? And I'm starting to think that we'll see a lot more caster builds in the PvP arena. Which is a good thing, right? Because I know as far as the PS3 is concerned, I was sick and tired of seeing all these katana users or, faith builds, with their little dark moon blade, right? Very rarely did you really see a lot of mage builds. And if you did, they basically restricted themselves to the Moonlight Greatsword and Crystal Magic Weapon. But that's about it, right? Now we have a myriad of sorcery castings, right? We have the dark and, the so-called light sorceries. And I didn't know there was dark and light. I just thought, you have the dark and the original. So it is what it is. So yeah, now, let's talk about hackers for a little bit. Right? Because I have definitely experienced hackers. And I think having this so-called Hall of Fame, right, in the Coliseum, is really motivating a lot of people to cheat, right? I think it is an incentive for a lot of people to cheat because, who doesn't want to pride themselves after saying, look at my win streak? Now, I am not arguing that because some people have an incentive to hack, that therefore the Wall of Fame should be removed. I am not saying that. What I am saying, however, is that, it is what it is. Some people have more of an incentive to cheat now that they can see themselves on the so-called Wall of Fame. Now, in part 2, we're going to take a look at a particular series of matchups that actually I think I lose to this guy every single time. I'm not sure. I think I beat him once. For which I don't care. If you guys are kind of used to the channel, you would know that the brigade doesn't really care anything about, posting my losses. I don't really care about that because we all can learn lessons in PvP and find ways to improve by posting both your wins and your losses. Right? Because I think you project a false image of yourself if all you're doing is just showing, your victories. Right? Because I don't care how much of a hotshot the person is or how much of a hotshot you perceive a person to be. We all have good days. We all have bad days. Right? You may say, holy crap, the brigade, man, that guy's a hot shot. Guess what, dude? I lose all the time. Right? And for my circle of guys that play me all the time, they'll tell you, no, that guy loses. He loses a lot. Just as much as he perhaps wins a lot. And this is why I say I'm an average player. Right? Because I think the average person wins a lot and loses a lot. Right? Now, of course, the longer you've played, you will learn more things and, you will be perceived to know things that other people don't know. Or be able to engage a little more effectively than other people. But guess what, dude? We all have good and bad days. That's the bottom line. So this is why, I've said that on a number of occasions that I'm an average player, and some guys will say, well, no, you don't. You compare, you can do this, you can do that. Well, guess what, dudes? Everyone can. Right? It just takes practice. If you guys are used to some of my original videos, there was a time in which I used to always say, you know what? I'm pretty good at the setup parries, but I suck at predicting parries. Absolutely suck at it. Right? But there's a period of time where I just start throwing them out there. I start studying patterns, seeing when people would swing, trying to notice when people would not swing. And I would throw more parries out, right? Because one thing about the so-called blind parry technique, I think people, I think there's a difference, right? I hate the blind parry technique. I do like, however, predicting. Now, the blind parry technique, in my personal opinion, is where someone is just running up to you and parrying. They just run up to you and hit the parry button, right? And in some cases, just by the luck of the draw, they catch you. Well, that's not really predicting. And a lot of times, people who spam parry, who just for whatever reason, they're just hitting the parry button. They're not really predicting anything. It's just kind of like, okay, well, let me just kind of throw something out there and hopefully I'll get it. Now, you'll get other guys, and you can notice in their gameplay, because if you notice when I play, there's only a few times when I may throw up a parry, right? But do you just see me running up to somebody and just run up to them and hitting the parry button? No. Do you just see me back off parrying 2 and 3 times? No. In most cases, if I throw out a parry, it's because I think the person is going to swing. Not the blind parry method. I try to predict. Right now, this is not to say that because I'm predicting that every single time I hit it. No, I'm not saying that. But case in point, in most cases, when you see people roll, they're going to roll into a R1 attack, right? So in a lot of cases, if I see someone roll, I'm going to hit the parry button, because in most cases, this is what I see. Now, granted, there are a lot of cases that there are people who do not roll and then R1 swing. Okay, well, you just missed one. But in a lot of cases, this is what I'll see. There are other instances where patterns can be noticed, and I won't tell you them, right? Not because I'm hating on anyone else's ability to predict. What I'm saying is everyone needs to learn for themselves, right? So I'm not going to tell you my secrets or the times that I have noticed that people swing more often than others, right? So we'll just leave it at that. So, back to the cheaters. Enough ranting about that. And actually, I really don't have that much time left to talk about the cheaters. So what we're going to do is we're going to reserve the rest of this conversation for part 2 of the video. Now, some of you guys may say, dude, you're super cheap. You just stun locked that guy. Well, it is what it is, all you honor police, right? The reason why I stun locked, well, actually, I don't even need to explain, but the main reason why I stun locked that guy is because he chain backstabbed me and I didn't like it, right? So we all can get dirty in the brigade. It is what it is. Alright guys, well, you can just watch the rest of this matchup. Stay tuned for part 2, where we're going to talk about, the hackers. Martyrs Brigade is out.